Welcome everybody here today to the New Hollywood podcast, where we're going to showcase interesting relationships between pretty unusual characters from everybody from celebrities, influencers, athletes, music superstars, and just overall interesting people and how they ended up in Los Angeles, what they're doing, and what made them successful. Today, you guys are in for a treat. We have Craig Gatsby, a longtime friend who I met about 7 years ago in a nightclub. And he became one of my first reality star clients. And we've been through the gambit of everything from his boxing career, reality show appearances, to him currently being a 3-time Billboard charting DJ, whose peak position was at 11. He spent about 6 months on the Billboard charts.
What's up, man? We just celebrated our 7-year Facebook anniversary. I got the alert. So.
Yeah. There's a lot of pictures of us in nightclubs. The first photo.
Yeah, the early promotion days, events, entertainment. That was good times.
So, Greg, what I really want to hear from you is you're somebody who's done a lot of different things. You're from New Hampshire. You're from Boston area. You went to college and played collegiate level basketball, got injured, became a boxer, went on reality TV. You've had a lot of gambits of things that people have seen you do and things that you've succeeded at, things that you failed at. What I'd love to start off with is if you could give everybody a little background on who you are and what you've done.
Sure. So that sounds like my life is a complete mess if you hear it in that order. But I think athletics were always a big part of my life. Boxing, I just kind of grew up in the tradition. So I didn't pursue it as a career or anything, but I boxed in the Golden Gloves tournaments, and then I ended up coaching fighters as well. So it's just a discipline that I love. It's a sport that I love. Music has always been the biggest part of my life. Even playing basketball, the way that I got started DJing or making mixes is I would download records, and then I found software that you could cut up, pieces of songs and make them transition into each other. And I had no idea that was, a job. Yeah. I just did it because it would be cooler for layup lines with my friends when I was like 10, So, you could cut up, The Champ Is Here by Jadakiss and go straight into a Jay-Z record. I just thought that was so cool. I had no idea it was, later that would be my life. So that's how it started. I was in athletics. I loved music, but I just played around with it for fun. I got to college and started throwing parties in Boston and meeting DJs and becoming part of the culture, 18, 19, 20, 21. And then decided to pursue it full time. And I had friends in the studio all the time. My roommate was a rapper. So I was learning about production and so on. And it kind of all just led me down a path that eventually was, a writer, producer, and DJ.
Yeah, and it took a lot of discipline for you to be able to do that, because I still remember you'd be waking up at 5 after being at the club till 2:30, and then training with Dickie, Eklund, who probably most of you would recognize the name from Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale's movie, The Fighter. How was it training with somebody like that while you're doing music, while you're running a nightclub and surviving?
Yeah. I just love boxing so much. It was easy for me. But training with Dickie's incredible. Shout out to the Eklunds. Dickie Jr. is out here in LA acting, and he's a boxing coach at the Wildcard gym now, Freddie Roach's famed gym. But yeah, it was great. He's a legend. He's Massachusetts to the core. So, it felt like family. But yeah, I love that. I love boxing. That was easy to get up. What was harder is juggling multiple, when I got out of venues, juggling multiple jobs and trying to do that and getting more serious about my music production and so on. Being out in the clubs till 2 made that extremely difficult. But the boxing was easy. That was something I was fired up to do.
Yeah, and around the time that we first met, we were both promoting. I was traveling around the country doing bigger, lifestyle type events, and you were the king of Boston nightlife for a period of time with Rev Rock Fridays. How did you make that decision to go after your real passion of music when you were just financially benefiting so much from being the guy that put the party on together?
Yeah, my life got significantly harder when I left promoting and throwing events. The biggest thing was, I think, and I don't think this is the case in all markets. I know a lot of promoters and promotional companies that I love them, and I think that they're stand-up brands. But what I was finding in my market, and this doesn't go for everyone there, but for the time period and for the types of venues and everything that I was in, you had to be a shark, man. And I'm all about grinding and working your face off, but it wasn't like that. You had to be kind of shady, steal promoters from each other, you limit access to information. And, I was empowering the promoters underneath me, or trying to. So I was teaching them things, introducing them to owners, giving them booking contacts, all that. And then they would go and just start their own night. There wasn't a whole lot of loyalty, which is fine, but for me, it was a lot of negative. It became kind of negative energy, that the nightlife scene, because promoting is a hustle, right? You can get a rip of the bar and you can keep the door or whatever. It's a business, but you're still like grinding to find any way to keep your night popular. And at some point it goes from like just creating a really great environment, and that succeeds, and being a good host, and it transitions into like having to stab people in the back or something like that. And that's just not the way I wanted to live. So I stepped away, and just only DJ'd events, and then, kind of moved on.
Now, how was that process going from like being that guy in the clubs to being the guy that gets in the club, does a set, and bounces out? You're more of like the person that's there to perform and entertain those people. How do you go about like learning how to do that? Did you have any mentors in the DJ space?
So early on, a DJ that I had at all my shows taught me how to beat match. I understood making mixes, and I had a good ear for music, and I understood the art of DJing from booking so many and working with so many at a young age. Like I said, I was making mixes when I was like 10, so I kind of already got that. But beat matching live is like the fundamental that you need, and that's difficult. And Mike Spiccone would sit with me and make sure I got it down. So I really appreciate him. Richard Frioli is a DJ. He's played Ultra like 11 straight years. He's a big name in Boston, lives in Miami now. But he's someone that was at the pinnacle of gigs in Boston. There's a lot of, I find, I don't know if it's every city, but in Boston, and by the way, I love Boston, and there's a lot of great things. But one of the things that was unfortunate is that I think people feel like there's not enough room for everyone to succeed. So if someone's coming up, it felt like a lot of trying to hold someone down. Richard, or being upset that a DJ popped up out of nowhere and so on, if they don't know your backstory. For me to start DJing 6 years ago after 2 years of throwing parties or whatever, some of them felt like it was unfair that I was getting gigs and whatnot. And so there was a lot of trying to hold me back. And Richard did the opposite. Richard was the best in the city and still went to my gigs, supported me, gave me constructive criticism, became my friend, produced a song with me. And now we DJ together often. We've DJed together in multiple states, big events. He's one of my best friends. So that's a bit of a mentor, I'd say. And there was other great DJs that were really nice and really helped me along the way. I got great advice from DJ Snake once at Foxwoods. I had already been DJing for a while and had some momentum. And we were talking about his rise to stardom. This was, right when Turn Down for What came out. And he gave a lot of great advice that I've held on to, but one of them was just make records that you love. Don't try to follow what everyone else is doing. He said, as soon as I did that, as soon as I made something I wanted, that's when I blew up. And so, locally, I'd say Mike and Richard, and there's a few others. And then on a higher level, I think DJ Snake gave me some of the best advice I've ever had. And it was really nice of him to take quite a bit of time with me after the show in the hotel.
That's really cool. You don't really hear too many stories of people meeting people that are at that level of success that take the time to give you advice, because a lot of people view people as their competition. Yeah.
I think Richard and Mike were awesome on a local level to do that. And then Snake, to take time out of his night, it was late too. That was a really, really great conversation that I kind of hold on to. I learned a lot.
Now, do you think you had some sort of advantage? Because I think a lot of people are going to view that coming from being the person that booked the shows and knowing and mentoring a lot of those promoters as it came up, as well as the bar owners and club owners themselves, would give you a little bit of an edge at being able to book more shows, being able to get better slots.
Yeah, I think it ended up being a disadvantage because some of these promoters were my competitors when I was throwing events. And, we didn't have an awful relationship, but we didn't have a great one. I would say they already kind of had their guys and they wanted to stick to that. A lot of times there's gig swaps. DJs get booked here and there, and they'll swap and help each other out and so on. I wasn't getting a lot of that reciprocation. So I had to prove myself, I think. I think it became harder. And we looked outward a lot. I think you remember. I mean, I would book shows wherever I could. And if we had to take $300 but drive 12 hours, I would do it. And I would kill it. And then they'd have us back for real money. So there was a lot of grinding. It wasn't spoon-fed for sure. It wasn't just like, oh, book my own gigs. I mean, I played, my first 2 years, I played 60 different venues. I mean, we really spread out. I didn't just book myself every week at my own spot. So yeah, maybe it was an advantage because I understood the industry. That's always good.
Yeah.
And I had a few friends that definitely helped me, like Sammy Sokol. He would book me, and that came from my days of throwing events. But it definitely wasn't an easy path. I mean, it's been a grind, and I had a bullseye on me, I think, because of that transition.
No, honestly, I think being in the ring and waking up early and making those sacrifices is one of those things that allowed you to succeed because, I've toured with a lot of big artists, a lot of small artists, and I've been around the block. But you're one of the few clients that I know that's going to find a videographer, find an opening DJ, bring your manager, also bring extra people to make sure that promotions of the event are going well and little things are getting handled, pack them all into one car with luggage on top of everyone, and then be the person to legitimately drive 12 hours, play a show, have a snack, take a 30-minute break, and then hop in the car, drive to Miami, play another show.
Yeah, you're in the car. That's interesting. This is kind of a neat interview because it's not normally with someone that's seen the backstory, and you were there for some of the really gnarly stuff. I mean, yeah, man. Playing the Vans Warped Tour and driving down to Virginia, you were there for that, or I played New York, Virginia Beach, and Miami 3 days in a row. And we had to drive because in order to fit a videographer, in order to fit a manager, in order to fit everyone, I couldn't buy 4 flights at the time. We were taking lower, average pay gigs. But I really wanted the exposure and the practice and the challenge. So we hopped in the car and I drove it. We didn't sleep. We didn't do anything. I played a gig on the car, drove another 12 hours, played a gig on the car. I remember the Miami show was during the day. It was at the Verizon Wireless Arena and it was at 2. It was a daytime event thing. Yeah. So the other 2 were a little bit easier because it was at night, but we literally were half hour late, literally got out of the car and into the booth. So lots of grinding for sure. And I think what you started that with was boxing kind of teaches you that discipline and maybe some of the mental endurance, mental toughness. I think that's true. I think all sports do that. And other things as well, other, martial arts and even just kids that worked at a young age and juggled school or paid their way through college. All those experiences really, really help when it comes to being an entrepreneur. I think artists are a kind of entrepreneur.
Yeah. Plus, I think it's a big testament towards your character just because there's a lot of people that have gone out of their way to help people work with them, build up their careers. But you're one of those few people, even after that specific Miami show, I remember it was you, me, and Polo. Mm-hmm. They only had one room with one bed. And you've been the person that's been up and you're like, hey, who wants to share the bed? And what was the funniest thing was this was probably the giantest bed ever. And Polo decided to sleep in the bathtub. I moved into a closet. And then you were sleeping diagonally on the bed.
Yeah, that was good. I had a whole bed to myself. Yeah, man, even now, I just toured, Trinidad and Tobago. And one of the nights, Johnny and I shared a bed. When we were at the Hyatt, for the majority of the time, we had our own beds. But the night of the promotion, the night of the event, we had to change to the Marriott. And we shared a bed.
That's pretty much like the story.
Crammed in.
Pretty similar to how we actually met. We met 1 week. Second week later, we booked a show, made some money. It's like, hey, we should go out to LA, meet with some agents, get some studio meetings. And we took
Phoenix, Vegas, LA, right?
Phoenix, Vegas, LA. And that's how you know if a relationship is going to build into something that you can work with. You dive in, you go through the struggles, you figure out how to rent a car, how to get a hotel somewhere really far out and figure out how to make it back and forth to the meetings. And even that trip was really interesting because, we went out with some of the largest nightclub people in Las Vegas. And you had, the cover girl of the year and Hugh Hefner's wife come through to see you.
Yeah, that was a culture shock for me. That's not something I'm used to. That's not, by the way, for everyone, that's not a regular occurrence for me. Just playmates are just showing up. But yeah, that was, at the time, my ex-girlfriend we broke up during the process of her moving into the Playboy Mansion. She was on the cover and so on. She was just kind of like a small town girl from Maine. We were both from New England, and just a regular chick. And then that all happened very fast. And then she became obviously best friends with Crystal, right? Crystal, is that her name?
Yeah, Crystal Afner.
And they came to the Vegas one. That was interesting. But yeah, that trip was incredible. I think what's to take away from this is like, we didn't have much money. We weren't too organized, but we had a bit of a lead, right? Like you knew someone in Vegas that was big, and we had one gig West Coast, and we had a few opportunities, and we said, whatever, let's go. Let's just, I think you have to take risks and say yes more often than no. I mean, don't let yourself get taken advantage of course, especially in business, but I think you need to take risks and say yes often. And that was one of those times where who would have known that's what our table would have looked like, or those are the people that we would have met, or the contacts we would have left with. But we did it. We did it with just a few bucks and figured it out. Fix the plane as you fly it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I figured that's a big part of our successes. We've always taken a lot of these risks. And I think that would be a great thing for people to kind of hear about is, what are 2 or 3 big risks that you've taken, and how did they work out? Like the ones that were good and also the ones that were bad, because I think that's a big problem with the entertainment business and business in general is everyone wants to just talk about their successes. But for the most part, people are really successful because of those failures and those lessons that they've learned.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's really important too, because I think people start to fail and then they, sometimes they quit or they get really, really discouraged because they're seeing everyone else's success. I've noticed that in the DJ community. There's like, most of the content is like my private jet. Look at the cars, like look at this, look at the girls. And there's not a whole lot of content about, what they went through to get there or what they're still going through, because it isn't all, still gravy. My failures and successes, risk, right? You said risk that I took?
Big risks that you've taken.
Well, I'm taking one right now. I left home to move to LA, and I did that because multiple members of my team, management and so on, are kind of like, now's the time. We've got a bunch of records coming out that are really, really, we feel are really great, and a little bit of momentum. So I need to be here. And so I left my family. I left my girl. I left my comfort. I left guaranteed gigs, money, easier access to my resources.
You also left Luna, your baby.
Yeah. No, not a real baby, by the way. I did not leave my child.
He adopted from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, my little pup. She's coming, though. It was just to get the transition period done first, move in, figure out what's going on. But yeah, the first month has been amazing, though. This is one of those risk reward things. We got a reward from this. I've had, multiple interviews, gigs, relationships, studio sessions. Even just going to the Mission Impossible pre-screening yesterday, met some fantastic people that have really good contacts. Every day is a new thing in this city. It's incredible. There's people out here trying to make their dreams come true. There's people out here that have already succeeded, and everybody is constantly networking. There's a lot of opportunity. So I took a risk. And I'm already kind of feeling the rewards and a little bit of momentum here. Another one would be, man, do you remember some of my, starting businesses are always a risk. And I've started a couple that, ended up, I wouldn't say they failed, but I think they fizzled out for me. I'd say a big risk that didn't pay off, but I'm okay with it, I'm at peace, is giving all my contacts and information away to kids that have worked for me. Yeah. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, too. No, I'm pretty positive exactly what you're talking about.
So, but I feel I'm at peace with that. It's like, it's okay. I empowered someone to go off and be successful. They didn't necessarily like thank me or stick around to help, or kind of fulfill their obligations with me. But, I think teaching and empowering people is a great thing. So I'm not sure that that's that's a failure, but it did sting for a while. And I think what I learned from it is maybe I have to do, it's not that I have to withhold information from people and hold them down. I think I have to do a better job of who I surround myself with and who I hire, right? Like that's the lesson from that. I failed in hiring, I think, throughout my life. I think I always got overexcited. I love people so much that anyone that showed interest, I was excited, and I try to make it work for everyone. And I think you have to really be careful about who you're surrounding yourself with and take stock of it often and really be aware. And so that's one thing that I learned from.
I think that's a big testament to your character, because that's also one of my biggest flaws is I love people too much, and so do you. And what that ends up doing is it's to a detriment sometimes to yourself.
For sure.
And I think being able to realize that's not a testament to your character, but theirs is, a really big thing for you to kind of take away from those sort of experiences, because those experiences can make you bitter about possibly helping someone out. And you never know, because the next person that you help out might be that person that either has that contact or might be the person with just the right compliment to take your track from, charting on Billboard's dance charts to charting on the overall 100 charts.
Yeah, the Hot 100. Yeah, absolutely. And then even just from I think, there's a great book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Everybody should listen to the audio or read it. And they talk about Abraham Lincoln and something that he said once. He said something along the lines of, don't judge them. They're only what we would be under the same circumstance. And that's how I feel about the people. When you do the right thing and people kind of screw you over, which is going to happen a lot in the entertainment business, but I think in general it happens. If you came from the same background and the same influences and you had their same DNA, right? Then you would be that. You would do the same thing. It's not a discredit to them if they do something crappy, and it's not. I'm not great for doing the right thing either. I think that I'm lucky. Like that's what I like to do. I was born with that. This isn't something that I deserve credit for. And I think that the people that do bad things don't deserve too much criticism for it. They are what you would be if you were them, if you were under the same circumstance and influence. So I think just having empathy for them is the key. And then you can kind of live with yourself a little bit more when you do get screwed over, and you can keep a positive mindset and you can kind of continue forward being who you are and running your business the way that, or your team or whatever it is you're doing, the way that you feel is right, and that you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day. I think that's the best way to not let it change you or to get bitter, is to understand that it's not their fault. It really isn't. It's circumstance and environment and DNA, man. It's just unfortunate, and that's all it is.
I think a risk a lot of people would love to hear from your perspective was once we stopped booking as many gigs and you realize, to be a successful DJ, you need to actually be producing tracks. You need to be in the studio, and you weren't doing as much nightclub stuff so that you could focus on it. How was that experience of, getting those regular jobs, cleaning stuff as a janitor at colleges and driving Uber and putting that money into the studio?
So the first part, I have to thank, Mike Sipp, because he let me, when my girl and I broke up and I moved out and I left the venues and I said, I'm going to do music full time. Because at that point I was just playing around on my laptop trying to put, songs together. I literally moved into the recording studio and slept on the couch. And Sipp let me watch all his sessions and would make me go upstairs and piece records together and, trial and error, and, sit in on him mixing and mastering records and so on. So I dove in entirely. Like I literally lived there in just music.
Put in your 10,000 hours.
Yeah. So that helped a lot. And I'm very thankful for that. Then, moving on, I was getting gigs, and that would pay some bills. It would pay the bills, but the thing about it is early on, and I really want the younger DJs to understand this, and or singers and songwriters and whatever you do in the arts, you don't have to be, you don't have to like appear cool. Like people can relate to really what's going on. And the position I was in was I can't get a full-time job where I can get money to get ahead and invest in my craft, because if I do that, and South by Southwest comes up, I can't leave. Like you can't just leave work whenever you want, right?
No, 100%.
So I needed a job, and this is what a lot of artists struggle with. So this is the important part. I needed a job beyond my music because that just made me break even. I needed to get ahead because you have to invest in yourself. So I needed jobs that I could leave when I wanted. And if I had to do the worst job in the world, which I didn't, I actually appreciate the jobs I had. But if you had to do the thing that hurts your pride a little bit or is just like backbreaking work, if that's what you have to do to find a position that lets you leave when you need to leave so you can take gigs and not miss opportunities, that's what you have to do. And so I had played the East Coast strip of the Vans Warped Tour. I had headlined Metropolis in Montreal, the night before on the what do they call that in front? The
marquee.
The marquee was J. Cole, and the next day was me.
And for those of you that don't understand Nightlife, Metropolis is a top 5 venue in the world.
It was pretty sick. And so I was already respected enough to do that, and I still needed to work. And you're gonna have to for a long time, young, producer, DJs, artists. You're gonna have to grind. And so 2 jobs. My boy owned a carpet cleaning company, which is backbreaking work. It's not like vacuuming. You're hooking up hoses, climbing 15 stairwells, tying it all up, and then lugging around big metal wands that you push against the grain of the carpet and back. And you do the entire floor of a building, go down the floor, entire floor, down the floor. 18-hour days, ridiculous. But it was my boy. So if I told him literally the day before, it was a blessing because I could just leave. And then I'd still have a job when I came back. So that's what I had to do. I had to play I had to fly into Kentucky or something, play a university, and then go clean a university for the next week in New York. Literally sleep in a dorm and clean the floors and be basically a janitor. What else was I gonna do? And then Uber became more popular, and I was like, okay, this is a cool side hustle too. I can do this in between. I did both. And went to my recording sessions and played my gigs and traveled. I was still cleaning floors the first time I charted on Billboard, to give you perspective.
What was your Uber driver rating? I think you have one of the highest ones that I've ever heard of anyone.
I was definitely a 4.9 something.
I think it was a 4.96 or 4.97 last time I talked to you.
That's the other thing. It's going to trickle over to your music or anything else you do. If you hate your job and your life and you have a negative attitude towards the fact that you have to humble yourself and do these things, you have to find a way to live positively in your mind and to appreciate and do your best work no matter what it is you do for work, because it will translate. It has to become a habit. So I took pride in Uber driving. Sometimes it sucked, it would be a little bit. And by the way, driving for Uber is not embarrassing, but it felt because I was a bit high profile, right? Some people knew me, that when someone would get in the car that seen me play before or came to my events or knew who I was, it felt a little bit, it was awkward at first. But I still, did my best, got back in the car the next day and kept it going because I needed to find a way to be able, this is expensive. You have to invest in your music and yourself.
I actually just recently had because I also drove Uber while I was getting my master's degree for a period of time, just to supplement income between touring and stopping working to go to school full time.
Well, you've always been a grinder, so that makes sense to me.
Yes, I did the 18 hours a day, 3 days a week. And what tripped me out the other day was when I was at home with Bash, our third roommate, he came down and he's like, do you know that Big Sean movie that I'm working on? Well, the writer for it is a guy who took an Uber with you 3 years ago in Boston, because he's like, I don't know anybody, any of your friends. He's like, well, I have a roommate that I've had a couple of businesses with in the past. And he started describing some of the stuff that I do, which is throw celebrity parties, connect with big athletes and big, hip hop artists. He immediately said my name. And that's really a coming to circle thing, because, we threw that concert with Big Sean about 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
Drove that guy, and now he's a successful writer out in LA. And I think it's a big testament to positively trying to influence the people that come into your life, and also realizing that everything kind of happens for a reason. There's a greater purpose.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So he remembered you.
He remembered me. Still follows me to the day.
So you gave a good ride, and you got him onto your Instagram.
Yeah.
You know what? That's actually a good point. DJ, producers, singers, actually driving Uber is a great side hustle because you're also meeting people. So if you can humble yourself for a minute, and do this, people ask you, what do you do other than drive? And you could tell them, I'm a singer, I'm a producer, I'm a DJ. And they're interested. They think that's interesting. And you can be like, yeah, I've got free music up on my page. Just follow my Instagram or whatever. It can be casual. You don't have to force it on them. And you actually get a lot of followers that way. I got booked at Harvard for a high paying gig because of an Uber, now that I remember it. Because she followed my Instagram, she realized my stuff was good and I was playing big shows. And then she DM'd me and she's like, hey, the foundation for whatever at Harvard is throwing a big event. It's X amount. Would you like to be the performer? I was like, heck yeah. So that came from Uber. So that's actually a good point.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people don't ever take that initiative in life to go after their dreams. And, when I first moved to LA, I was interning at ICM Partners, one of the biggest talent agencies in the country. What really tripped me out was every day at lunch between 1 and 2, we'd go to the Westfield Mall, eat in the food court, and they had this little patio thing that live music artists would perform at. They would never really have like that much competition for people to perform there. But if you want to make it in LA or you want to make it anywhere in the world, the best audience of people to get your music in front of that are tastemakers that are deciding like what actually gets booked and they're actually paying attention to it are at that mall. And occasionally I noticed that there were kids that worked at the Panda Express, kids that worked at like the Starbucks and the Coffee Bean that would try and take that conversation over there. And what was really funny was I had a client meeting over at CAA a couple months ago. And when I got picked up, the Uber driver mentioned within the first 2 minutes of the ride that she was a singer, had a song that she played for me. And I'm like, that's really genius. You got to put yourself in a position to win. You got to come to that party.
She's probably parked outside that building all day trying to
catch the right person.
Agents. Yeah. Yeah, that is smart. Yeah, man, unconventional. But I think the way to sum up that whole conversation is, you get to work your face off, multiple jobs, find unconventional ways to meet people, so on and so forth. But also, what's interesting, you said that, you would never think in a food court, that's where you're going to be discovered. But these people were probably just taking any gig they could. And sometimes the one event you go to, you say yes to, or the gig that you take that you thought was less than you, maybe your ego is not allowing you to play in a food court. That could have been the one to change your life. And it goes back to, saying yes as often as you can and being as active as you can. As much motor you have, use it all. Don't leave anything. As many gigs as possible, as many meetings as possible, as many records as possible. If you need money, as many jobs as possible. Like, work if this is what you want,
Yeah, no, I think that's very spot on. I'm going to take it to a little bit of a different direction. Mm-hmm. What would you do, because I'm a big fan of Alan Watts, if money didn't matter and you couldn't be a DJ?
Tight. Alan Watts is so tight. People should just YouTube him all day. Him and Shadguru.
They're both great.
Yeah. All day. Oh, I would teach. Actually, that's easy. I would coach. I would teach kids for sure.
What type of coach?
I've coached both basketball and boxing, and I loved both. I think that if I didn't, if I wasn't an artist, I would, go coach a team and maybe work in the boxing gym during the day. I would love to open like a free boxing gym because I've seen how it transforms kids' lives. So I'd like to open one in kind of, a neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of resources. That's something I'll do. I win the Grammy and make all the money. I'll probably downshift pretty quickly and go into helping my community and teaching kids and trying to motivate young people. That would be the most fulfilling thing for me, for sure.
I think my favorite motivational speech that you've done was when I brought you into that college class I was teaching at Emerson.
Oh, yes. The Emerson taught the entrepreneur class, right?
Entrepreneur class.
Yeah. Yep. That was that was a good one.
Greg kicked it off with, who here is a junior? Congratulations, you made it 1 year farther in college than I ever did.
Yeah, I left my junior year, the end of my junior year. Yeah, that was funny. Those kids were great.
All right. And then one thing that is a little bit different about you is while you're touring and while you're, building your artist career, you kind of realize that, you had colitis and you get to make modifications and, now you're vegan, you're living much healthier, you're in much better shape. How do you think, proper diet or just getting meditation and stuff has positively affected your life?
Yeah. So I'm actually, I eat fish and eggs. So I'm not vegan, but I do try to stay plant-based. I just found for me, red meat is a carcinogen, and B, kind of has inflammatory values, and it's hard for me personally. It's not the same for everyone. Everyone's diet is different for yourself. But for me personally, it causes a bit of inflammation, and I have inflammation diseases. I have, autoimmune diseases. So I have severe ulcerative colitis, and I have, which is under control, thank God now, and then arthritis. So I wake up very stiff, swollen, a lot of pain, low energy, and I have to feed myself right. But I don't think you need a disease to know, especially as touring or as like an entrepreneur, or anyone that's grinding up long hours, traveling a lot. You're going to have to take care of yourself because you're going to burn out, and that's not good for your career. So I encourage everyone to learn their own bodies. I think it's good to research diets and figure out different things, but I don't think any of them fit everyone well. I think you really need to do what's best for you. I just found that dairy isn't agreeable for me, and that plant-based gives me more energy, and I feel better in general. So it's really important, and it's helped me a lot. And I don't drink or do drugs. I'm not against either. I drank a lot before. I actually think psychedelic drugs and like drugs that put you in a place where you kind of explore your mind are actually awesome. I don't encourage, doing them every day, but I don't do any, just because I feel better living a clean lifestyle, and it helps my motor, right? I feel more energy, more focused. I wake up from a gig not hating myself. I'm able to be a little bit more professional and make sure I don't make any mistakes, and I'm kind to people, and I wait after a gig and say hi and take a picture and talk to young DJs about their goals and dreams and ambitions. I get a lot more done by being clear-minded and healthy. So for me, it's a personal choice, but I would not make it because of the autoimmune diseases if I was making poor decisions daily.
Yeah.
I cheat every once in a while. I cheated this morning, but
you're high on life. You take the time to go to Disneyland every time that we go to Orlando.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you get a chance to travel and have gigs, like find the time. Like figure it out, because it's not, traveling is like the most important thing, I think. And you learn so much about culture and different people, and you have all these great experiences, and you learn about yourself. And whether you're sleeping in a car, which we've done, traveling a
couple times,
or in a 5-star hotel, which we've done too, and got to enjoy some of the nicer things. I think traveling's so important. So when you get a gig out of town, your first one, schedule it for 2 days. Like spend a day there, explore. Meet people, try the street food, shout out to my Trinis showing me doubles in the Caribbean. Doubles is like a street food after the club, and it looks like a mess. It looks disgusting, and it's so good. You got to do that, man. You got to eat the stuff that looks weird. And, when you go to Japan, you got to eat the full squid with the eyeballs that's like still moving,
Yeah.
You just got to go
Embrace
and experience
life.
Things and learn. I think it helps you with your art, and it helps your development as a person.
Now, where's a place, we've traveled a lot. We've been in like 30 plus states. We've been all over North America. Where's a place that you've been that you'd love to go again? And where's someplace in the world that you've never been and want to actually take a trip to and perform at?
So places I've been, I think my best gigs are always Quebec. People just go crazy. I guess there's not as many artists in some of the smaller areas of Quebec. So like guest artists. So I've been able to build a little following. They're not very active online, but they show up to the gig like early. Have you been to them?
Yeah, I've been to a lot of those.
There's a line like
Gatineau.
Yeah. There's a line like 10 o'clock. Like it's crazy, especially Victoriaville, Quebec. It's like nuts. I don't even understand. And Montreal obviously is great, in Quebec City, but so I love playing at Quebec. But I think I just fell in love with Trinidad last week, like in love. I love it. I love it so much. So I'm definitely going back, probably for Carnival. I love Caribbean music. I love blending the EDM with it. I love bridging genres and just the energy from the crowds there and the people and their culture. So I'd love to go back to Trinidad and play again. And then place I haven't been, but I want to go to, India. I get the most inboxes from kids in India that have big dreams of being producers or DJs, or that are big EDM fans, and ask for my advice and are like so inquisitive and like so excited about that culture, dance music, that it just feels like a place that would re-energize me. I think that I would just love to go play in India for sure.
They have a big music festival in Goa, which I think would be right up your alley.
I would love that. In small venues too. I want to meet every single kid. I mean, I just love that part of this.
Yeah, I think we've had that discussion because we've toured a lot, and one of the most memorable experiences from any of the shows was a Kiss 108 concert that I went to, where Jason Derulo was kind of in the same artist area as us, and he walked out a little bit ahead of us. So he got mobbed by a big group of kids. His girlfriend was with him. And as that group wrapped up, there was like a kid that came over and like wanted to take a photo. And he just looked at his girl and said, the only reason we're able to live this lifestyle is because of little kids like this. I think that's one of the most beautiful things that you've always gotten from the start of, your career, from small shows to where you're at right now as, a Billboard charting producer.
Yeah. I mean, from a like a humanity standpoint, obviously you want to spread happiness, you want to respect and love people, you want to appreciate people. And then from a business standpoint too, it's I hate when people forget how important the one fan is. Like, it's everything. I was actually talking to Venus about this yesterday because she's building her, influencer career. And she was talking about the 20 people that really care about her, like that are like comment on everything. And I was like, that's a lot. That's actually a lot of people. Like, those people make them the star of, and she already does that and she does a great job. But, they are, I think a movement starts, if you're trying to build a fan base, by them. And because you're not relatable, you're the artist, like you're a character, people can't, even if you're small or like me, the kids that are fans, they can't even imagine. They don't really relate to you. They either look up to you or admire or just, are just a fan. But the other fans, like the one person, they're going to influence their friends and they're going to create the movement and they're going to, so you make them the star. They're the most important person. Like Jason was saying, they are the reason you get to do this. And so if you empower them and make them the star, you're going to grow much quicker from a business standpoint, I believe. I think that there needs to be like a real, like a deep, genuine appreciation for how actually brave they are too, because most of society is following trends and, whatever's on the radio and whatever's already cool and just fitting in, right?
Yeah.
Kids that like you when you're smaller are awesome because they didn't care about any of that. They're proclaiming on the internet that they love you and nobody knows who you are. In the big scale of things.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like, that kid is amazing. That's amazing that they care about you. And that they're the first, right? Or they're the only one in their circle. Like, you have to give that kid all the love and appreciation and respect in the world, because they're going to be the reason that 5 of their friends and their inner circle work up the courage to like something different as well and create their own little community. So the one fan, don't underestimate it. It is huge, and you need to make them the star.
Yeah. So what's a big part of like the New Hollywood podcast for me, and the reason I want to do this, is I know a lot of amazing people like yourself that have had success, that know how it is to start with very little. What's some actionable advice for a kid that's starting off, in their house? They have a MacBook, they just have a laptop, they want to be a producer, DJ. Where do they start off? What are some actionable steps that they can take to getting to, proficiency?
Well, assuming they already got some software, they have Ableton or another DAW.
Where should they start off if they don't even know where to go with that?
If I could start again, I would have bought Ableton first. But I started on Cakewalk on Sonar, just because it's where I started.
Old school.
It's where I learned. It's the studio that slid into a little bit and dabbled in Fruity Loops because Matsir was using it, and I just he's the one that like I look up to when it comes to production, and he's helped me greatly. So I wanted to be able to work in the same space, but I just didn't really like it from what I tried compared to Ableton. And pretty much everybody, at least in dance music, is using Ableton now, it seems like, or a lot of people. So it's kind of easier because you can share projects and so on a little bit easier than like exporting the audio. But you can log in the Splice and link your accounts and stuff. So I guess if I had, but there's no, look, it's whatever you're comfortable with, whatever DAW you want to use. But I guess I would, if I had to pick one, I'd pick Ableton. And then I would look up tutorials, and I would watch them every day. I would learn some sort of music theory, even if it's just, there's online classes that are like music theory for electronic artists. You don't need to be like an expert. In fact, I think it helps if you're out of the box. You know, if you're a new age thinker, if you're not too much in the constraints of, you know, proper music, you know?
Yeah.
But I think you need a basic understanding for sure. You need to understand how to put these chords together and what key your song is in and so on. And you know, how to mess with frequencies that they don't collide. So I'd get a general understanding, a lot of tutorials. I would start producing every day. You need a lot of content. From the DJ aspect, well, let's stick with one. So the next step after producing every day is I would be reaching out and networking with as many producers as possible, whether it be for feedback, advice. I'd be sending their promo email, getting their feedback. And I would be searching for someone to collaborate with, because if you can share networks, that's a quicker way, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of collabs early on, I personally think.
Now, do you think like the internet equalizes that playing field so you could be from like Missouri and get on a Facebook group or Instagram?
1,000%. I understand it's noisy, so it's hard to cut through. I get that. Trust me. I'm struggling with it. But at least you got a shot, you know? 50 years ago, in Missouri, it was a 1 in 100 gazillion that someone was going to hear your music, bro. Like, you have to understand you are so lucky to live in this age. And this is a blessing, and stop complaining about it being oversaturated and go make some records and distribute them, because there's no middleman anymore, right?
Yeah, and ultimately the cream rises to the top. If you have talent and you're able to do the right stuff, eventually you're going to rise to the top if you put that work and that diligence in. And
you know what? Eventually is a good word, because you have to have patience. It's not going to happen overnight. Well, it might. You might have a viral moment. That's great for you. But most of us, you're not going to. So years and years and years and years, you have to have vision. You have to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, you'll quit. And you have to have patience. You have to have both. You have to be fanatical about working as hard and as fast as possible and getting content done, records done, but also patient for waiting for the results is going to be key. So yeah, the collaborations, diving into the music, getting help from people. Don't be afraid to have people help you with your records. I often need help, especially mixing and mastering. So sharing knowledge, working hard, all the simple stuff. From the DJ aspect, you are going to need to go out and support your local nights. You're going to have to bring people out, because look, I don't like it as much as you don't, but the local the local promoters are booking you on who you can bring out. Yes, you have to play a good set. It can't be awful. But more important than the set to them is, are you bringing people? And you can say that sucks and I hate that and screw this, but it's the world you live in. So if you want to play, you're going to have to stop complaining, which I see out of 99% of DJs, and you're going to have to bring people. Like, people are going to have to care to see you play. Just how it is now. So you're going to have to find a way to bring some people out, make friends with the venues, make friends with promoters, and maybe play for free the first time. You might have to not undercut the headliner. Don't cheapen our industry, but say, look, I'll open for free. You know, I just want you to hear my set. Give me a shot. Give me the first hour, and you better kill it, and kill it proper. Understand that opening your sets, you have to build the momentum. You don't just go bangers for an hour. You know, you don't play the headliner's music. You tastefully build the night up. So I would start by trying to be an opener, by building equity with people, by building relationships, and humbly playing really well and building momentum, great, but not dropping headline bangers, because you don't want people to be tired by the time the headliner's on. And I think you work your way up to that headline spot if you follow that blueprint.
Lead with the value and have the heart of a servant.
Yeah, 100%. Always try to provide more value than you're getting in return, and I think that's the winning combination.
And I'm probably the only person out there that was on our crew that liked actually meeting the random people in those random cities to bring them to the shows.
Yeah, you and Jill. Jill loves it to this day.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Jill's incredible. Yeah, and surround yourself with good people, right? You need a team. And early on, it can just be your boy that likes making videos, but you know, he is not getting paid yet for it. They're rough. You know, have him get content. You know, have a friend come and help push the nights for you and so on. You're going to have to build a team at some point.
All right. And now, Greg, what would be your spirit animal?
Spirit animal. Whoa.
Taking it out of the business place.
I'm like a dog, I think. I love sticking my head out the window. I'm a wanderer, right? I get up from the apartment, I put an audiobook on, I just walk through the city. I'll just end up in Beverly Hills from Beverlywood, or
yeah.
I'll just end up in Hollywood. Yeah, I'm a bit of an adventurer. I just like to have fun. I love people. I think I'm a dog.
That's dope, man. So can you, to wrap this kind of up, tell everyone a little bit about some of the projects that you got underway that are going to be coming out in the next couple months and where they can find you on social media?
Okay, projects. Well, Back to You is out right now. And I got good news about it being played in sets. The Billboard reporters are playing it and putting it in their mix shows and so on. So there's a good chance this is going to chart very soon. We just finished the treatment for the music video for that. So the next step is Back to You video. After that, I have Runaway Love coming out with 2 artists from the Caribbean, Brave Boy and Steph Kalu. They just had songs with like Brave Boy. Steph Kalu just had the Tommy Sunshine song. She played at Ultra, and Brave Boy is on a song right now with While She Fire from Major Lazer. So they're both making moves, very well respected in their market, and they killed it for me. They did awesome vocals. So I have a song featuring them that will be out in about a month. After that, we have Dancing With You with Mark, which is this great song with this anti-bullying message and this incredible music video. But it's still a nice pop song, you know. It's
so touching.
Pop and EDM, you know. It's different. I try to push the envelope with my productions. I try to make them different, you know. After that is the song with Ulf, who won The Voice in Sweden and those other countries. What is it, Scandinavia?
Scandinavia, yeah. So it'd be Sweden, Norway, Denmark.
Yeah, The Voice has their own program for that part of the world, and he won it. And then he went triple platinum under Universal. It's featuring him, so it should be a big song, and it's awesome. It's one of my favorite songs. That'll be out like end of September. And then after that is Those Eyes. And then, you know, I've got 15 maybe songs and 5 that are already set for release. And like we have a plan and a video. And so things are definitely, this will be my most busy and most active and biggest growth year. I'm very excited about all that. You can follow me to find out about all this stuff at Greg, Greg, Gatsby, Gatsby, Music, Music. So not spelled with like a Z or something. It's Greg Gatsby Music, all one word, every social media platform. And there's a hub of everything at greggatsby.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg, for coming on the podcast today and taking a couple hours out of your day.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for having me.
No, anytime. And thank you guys for listening to New Hollywood, your go-to destination for everything celebrity, influencer, and business-oriented, and in this crazy place that we call home in Los Angeles, California. You can be sure to download it on iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, pretty much anywhere that you can listen to or watch a podcast. You can be sure to follow us on Instagram at New Hollywood, or myself personally at Ashwin Jacob, ASHWIN JACOB. Thanks for tuning in and look forward to you listening to the next episode.